After a lackluster start to season 6, we finally have a really good episode of The Conners. And it might be the last time we see Estelle Parsons as Grandma Bev. Let's talk about moms and rats. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my review for The Conners, Season 6, Episode 3, Moms and Rats. And, for me, certainly the best one of the season so far. We had, I think, not the best start to this season if you go back and watch my previous videos. But this one, I think, is a winner, and we're going to talk all about it momentarily. First, though, let me welcome you into the channel. Thank you for finding this video here on Dan Reviews It. I do the Conners wrap-ups every single week that there is a new episode. We've been doing that since Roseanne Season 10, so you can check out all of my previous videos on the channel here, and my Roseanne Season episodes, reviews that I've done. Not episode by episode, but full season reviews of the original Roseanne series. I've got that up on the channel as well. And all of them are in nice playlists, too, so you can just kind of go right through if, you want to find them easier. And I do have some great news for those of you who were wondering where can you watch previous seasons of The Conners so you can catch up to the current season. And there are a couple different places that we've talked about. The CW on Thursday nights is running reruns. This fall, it will be in syndication, so you can see the first, I guess this season would be added to that, too. So you can see all the first 6 seasons in syndication this fall on your local networks. But I just found out last night that coming on March, I think it's 27th, so the end of March, Netflix will have the first 5 seasons of The Conners. So that is big news for those of you who are missing that. And I was wondering because Hulu, for a while, had all of the previous seasons, and then recently had sort of dropped them off, and you could only get like the previous 4 episodes or whatever from the last season, season 5. So starting at the end of March, you'll be able to see all of The Conners' first 5 seasons on Netflix. So that is big. All right, so let's talk about Moms and Rats. And I mentioned this may be the last episode in which we see Estelle Parsons play Grandma Bev. I love that we get 2 episodes in a row with her. I was just saying last week on my video that previously it had been really like 1 episode per season, maybe 2 if we got lucky. And the one season we only saw her on FaceTime. So, it's great to see her in 2 episodes in a row. But this may have been her swan song. The character does not die. If you haven't seen the episode, well, I do spoilers here for my review, so hopefully you have seen the episode. But, yeah, she doesn't die, but she basically, says her goodbyes to Jackie. So we'll get to all of that here soon. First, we'll talk about, I guess, sort of the B plot, which is the rats. And a little bit reminiscent, perhaps, of Phoebe in Friends, but we know that Darlene is a staunch vegan and has been for a long, long time. And there is a rat that comes through their kitchen sink. Jackie starts freaking out about that. And Darlene's like, okay, well, let's not tell anybody right now. Like, they're doing some construction next door. Maybe one of the rats, kind of popped up, whatever. Which begs the question, where is next door? Because this was an old funeral parlor that they converted. I don't know. I guess where I live, there are a few funeral parlors and mortuaries that are sort of in like residential areas. All right, maybe they have like a direct neighbor. But in any event, the rat, popped up. And, of course, Darlene does not want to kill it. She wants it to be very, very humanely, saved and kicked out of the house, but not killed. And Ben does not really take that seriously, so he ends up buying, real traps to catch it, and she is not having it. She's like, you never take me seriously, you never take my, veganism seriously, you never take my, having to deal with meat at work all the time seriously. She works in the cafeteria now at Ben's school, or not Ben's school, Mark's school. So, yeah, she feels unheard, I guess, but it does lead to some pretty funny moments, like Dan stealing the cheese out of the rat traps. So we love that. But the real clincher for me in this was that he had mentioned, Beverly Rose was so freaked out about the rat that she won't even leave her room. That to me is like, okay, Darlene, put everything you have aside for this. If, your niece is not even willing to come out of her room because there's a rat in the house, you may have to reconsider, what to do with the rat. But look, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. So, I'm not in that mindset. But I do know that if somebody is that freaked out, a young child is that freaked out about what's going on, maybe you have to put your own feelings aside for a moment and think about that. But, look, she still insists that Ben does it humanely. It also led to another funny moment. Dan had some great lines at this episode where she was like, oh, Dad, remember when I was a kid and I made you take the mouse that we had in the house out to the country? And he was like, was it not a clue that it only took me 10 minutes to get to the country and back with that mouse? So obviously he killed it. So yeah, some funny moments with that, but some good conversation, towards the end of the episode with Ben and Darlene about, look, we joke around so much. Our whole relationship is basically based on us kind of barbing each other, and so how do I know when something's actually bothering you? And it was a fair point, and she acknowledged that, and she said basically, if I harp on something a few hundred times, then you'll know that I'm just kidding around. I mean, that I'm serious, that I'm not just kidding around, that I really am, I want you to check in with me on it. And he's like, well, what if I check in and it's not something serious? And she's like, well, then you're too clingy and we got to talk. So there's a lot of humor in that portion of this episode. Love that. And that's kind of where we ended up on that. Although I will say about the tag scene, because they wanted to show Darlene that they do love animals. And so Dan had the one chicken. He keeps chickens. That's sort of, we haven't touched on that much in the last couple years, but a few years ago he got a chicken coop outside the house, and so they're raising chickens. We never really talk about them much, but so the chicken's playing the little toy piano. And then this was great. If you did not stay for the last commercial break, you definitely should have checked out the tag scene on Hulu. It's the chickens, or a bunch of chickens eating around a table, and the Roseanne and Connor's theme plays as they're sort of eating. Every season of Roseanne and the Connors, more or less, has had, everybody around the table eating and the camera sort of panning around. And so they did that with chickens, and it was very funny and unexpected. And you didn't know exactly at first, because it took like 2 seconds or so for the theme song to actually start. So it sort of lulled you into like, okay, what's this going to be? And then the theme starts, the camera starts moving. I thought it was very, very well done. Very funny. Okay. So now the real meat and potatoes of this episode is the Beverly and Jackie stuff. So we are continuing the storyline from the last episode that I did not care for. I thought it was rather ghoulish, with the running up the credit card bills in Bev's name with Bev's credit card, because Jackie has control of her finances since the dementia, and so they started buying a bunch of stuff that they needed. Harris bought a great phone, and Darlene bought her son a new computer, and Dan got this huge TV and whatever. So, but I was like, this is not cool. You can go back to my video and watch that. And I've had a few back and forths with you guys in the comments about that, because I had opposed that if somebody dies, doesn't their debt just kind of get shifted to the rest of the family? It doesn't just get wiped out like they were talking about. And there were actually, even in the comments with you guys, there were some sort of gray areas there. So I still don't really know the firm answer for that, at least here in the U.S. But in this one, we get right into it. The first scene, they are in Darlene's kitchen, and coming in and talk. I think it's Jackie that comes in and is like, okay, well, the credit card company is on our tail, or at least they know for sure that Bev did not make those charges. I tried to explain that she's got dementia, but they didn't really go for it. So they are, hot on our heels. We got to figure out what to do. And I'm glad, actually, that they didn't just let that sit. I didn't know that Bev would be in this episode, and certainly as much as she was, but I just kind of thought, it's a sitcom. They're going to just move on and not really talk about that again. But no, they launched right into it, which I thought was good. I'm not sure that it redeems them from the last episode, but I love that this show just dove right in and acknowledged that, yeah, this is a really not great thing to do. Jackie starts talking about how if they got caught, it's a felony and all of this. So I like that they acknowledged that. That was important. And it became, a huge part of this storyline as well, because it was the basis for Jackie and Dan going back to visit Bev to basically get her to either admit to, yes, I did these charges, or essentially to gaslight her into thinking that she made the charges, which again is not great, but at least with this family, like that was they did it in a humorous way, as you would expect, because I think it was Darlene that was like, maybe it's not a great idea to gaslight a woman with dementia. So at least I like when they're at least acknowledging that they're being jerks, as opposed to just, stealing a bunch of stuff. That to me, I was not a huge fan of last week. And if you saw my video, you will know that. But I love that they acknowledge that head on. So they go to see Bev. And it turns out that for the last couple of months, she's been taking this experimental drug where she's been having some really, really good days, and consistently so. And Jackie was like, well, why didn't you consult with me? Like, why didn't you talk to us about it? There were some side effects, and I thought you'd try to talk me out of it. And I thought the same thing that Dan said, which is, I don't think she would have talked you out of it just for some pesky side effects, whatever. But it is revealed then after Dan leaves that Bev and Jackie are gonna take this day trip into the city. Bev was like, you know what, I've been a horrible mother to you. I acknowledge that. I want to spend a great day with you, and this and that and the other thing. Now, I sort of talked a little bit about this last week with the emotional scene with Dan and Bev, where it didn't seem like she had ever really hated Dan, except for maybe in the very beginning, when him and Roseanne first started dating. But by the first season of the show, they'd been married for, at that point, I don't know, 15 years probably. And so, I never really got to see as a viewer her like hating Dan as they mentioned in the show. To me, they always seem to have, maybe a rocky relationship or whatever. And you guys in the comments again last week, and thank you for commenting. I always love talking to the Connors fans in the comments, so please keep those comments up. But, I went back and forth with a few of you about exactly that, and all of you basically that commented on that said the same thing. Like, yeah, I don't really remember her being like really, really nasty towards Dan. They sort of had, a working relationship as, son-in-law and mother-in-law. So I don't know where that came from, but this is a little reminiscent of, and I know that Andy, Jackie's kid Andy, does not exist in this world. So perhaps her and Grandma Bev never had this conversation in this universe. But there was an episode where, Jackie and her mother had a conversation about how, she is such a better grandmother to Andy than she ever was as a mother to Jackie. And it was it was one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. I mean, I loved when they, got to break that down and talk about it, and she admitted, to being a bad mother. And then as Jackie's trying to leave, Bev says something kind of nasty, and Jackie's like, no, it's still good. I just love that. But thinking about it, right, in this universe where Andy does not exist, maybe that never happened, right? So all we've had is the vitriol and the nagging and all of that to Jackie. So they go to Chicago, spend the day together, have this fantastic day. Bev loses Jackie on purpose when she goes to the restroom, and Jackie tracks her down at the train station. And she says basically, look, I have this train ticket. I'm leaving. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life, waiting to get old and forget where I am and, and die in that home or whatever. So I'm doing what I need to do. And Jackie feels at first slighted, like, oh, so was the whole ruse of the day to just get me to take you here? She said, no, I could have taken a cab here. I wanted you to have this day. I wanted this to be the last thing I remembered with you. And boy, that was powerful. I didn't cry, but it was very powerful. And I can relate to that. I mean, like dementia, Alzheimer's, like that scares the hell out of me. And I talked about this, I think, when she was diagnosed with dementia last season or the season before. I pride myself on having a great memory, and it's like all we have really is our memories, right? Everything else is tangible. Everything else goes away. And that scares the hell out of me, having, dementia or Alzheimer's. And so I can relate to not wanting to just wake up one day and not know where you are, and not know how to deal with it, So this really did seem like a send-off for the Bev character. Obviously, her and Jackie had a great moment together, very touching, loved it. And then Jackie comes home to the family with the chickens playing piano and, tells everybody what's going on. They're like, what, are you crazy? What are you doing? And she does reveal, which is the first time to us, the audience as well, that she does have a tracker on Bev's phone. So she at least will always know where she's going, where she is. And I would assume that would help her identify if she does end up dying. Because obviously the tracker then would be in the same spot. Or, of course, it's Bev. She could lose the phone, too, right? I guess we didn't consider that. But in any event, it's at least some peace of mind to the rest of the family that, okay, we get it. But Jackie was like, look, you don't understand. Like, this is what she wants. This is what she wanted to do. She's been lucid. Dan, back me up. He does. And so, it goes from there. And then a great line at the end of the episode, where Ben's like, well, you're never going to believe, what's going on in the kitchen. And the chicken's trying to play heart and soul. And Jackie's like, oh, you idiots, you need 2 chickens, to play heart and soul. Very, very funny. This episode is definitely the funniest so far of the season and the most poignant as well. Definitely some great emotional stuff. And I am sad that maybe we won't see Grandma Bev again. But look, like I said last week, Estelle Parsons is 96, and Becky says in this episode that the character is 96 as well. So, this is a 96-year-old character and actress. She could certainly, I mean, she's in great health. She looks good. She could certainly live many, many more years. But, is it tough for her to, get on the set? And I don't know if she even lives in California. Who knows? But if this is the last time we see Grandma Bev, I think it was great. It was a really nice send-off. And maybe part of what I didn't like about the last episode is that maybe I thought it would be the last time we would see Grandma Bev, and I didn't want her to go out like that, This was a much, much better send-off for the character. And I will say this before I forget, she even says to Jackie, without even Jackie mentioning it, Bev says, look, I took care of the stuff you bought with my credit cards. I called the credit card companies. I told them I made the purchases. And then she says something about it, I hope you enjoy everything you scammed off of the credit card company. I know I am. So I guess, look, it runs in the family, right? And for some reason, Bev doing it, I don't know, makes me happier about the whole situation. Makes me feel better about it. Because she is sort of the quote unquote frail old woman. She's not really frail in this episode, but, so if she could do it, I guess it's fine. But I like that they kind of put a pin on that and said, okay, look, it's covered. She's, we're not going to continue on with this plot line. We don't need to do 6 weeks on, the investigation or whatever. It's a sitcom after all. So I like that they kind of ended it that way too. This was a really, really solid episode. Do I have any other thoughts? I don't think so. I think I've covered everything. Let's do the MVP because we haven't really done MVP yet this season. Episode 1, I was just so happy to see everybody. Episode 2, I sort of forgot because I was too busy harping on how bad the episode was. For this one, boy, you could go in any number of directions. I mean, Dan certainly had the most laughs in this episode. Jackie obviously was part of both of the stories in this episode because she discovered the rat and then obviously the stuff with her mom. But I think it would be a shame if I did not give the MVP to Estelle Parsons for not just this episode, but for a lifetime of this great character. We've been enjoying Grandma Bev for 34 years or something, I think, right? More than that now. The original Roseanne was 1988. I don't know if she appeared in 88 or 89 at first, but either way, it's been more than 25 years since we've enjoyed this character with her faults and everything. And of course, I remember very fondly when, the episode where she broke her hip from doing some sex stuff. And then the end of the episode, she's in like a full leather outfit with her whip and everything for the tag scene. Estelle Parsons has given us a lot of great nuances with Grandma Bev over the seasons and years, and I have to give her the MVP for this episode as it may be her last. So, now, other than that, it's a shame that we again didn't see Mark, Neville, Louise. Neville and Louise are not full-time cast members, so we get that. But Mark, and somebody in the comments last week mentioned, like, hey, where has Mark been? My guess is that Ames McNamara is at college, and so he probably will be in a handful of episodes this season, but not many. But we also didn't see Harris this episode either. I mean, this was or Beverly Rose, this was a full-on adult Connor family only. Jackie, Dan, Becky, Bev, and Ben. And that was it. That was those five in terms of the main characters. Was all that were in this episode. And you know what? That's okay. That's all we needed. We acknowledged Mark's school. We acknowledged Beverly Rose in her room. But I would like to see an episode with Mark at some point. And I am interested to see what Harris is going to do taking over the lunchbox as we kind of move forward with that storyline coming up later in the season. But this one directed by Jodie Margolin Hahn again. She has directed all 3 episodes this season so far. Usually she'll do a handful every season, but not all of them. But you know what? Maybe that would be good for the focus of the show. Switching out directors every single episode is not usually helpful. And Bruce Helford wrote this episode, and he, of course, it goes back to the original Roseanne days as well. So 2 long-term members of the Roseanne and Connors family at the writers and directors chair for this one. I leave Moms and Rats with an A. This is one of the best episodes of the Connors we've gotten in a while. All right, that will do it. Next week, another new episode. So I will be back with you to enjoy that one. And we'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.